Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a little different.
Mhm.
Usually we take a book, maybe a stack of academic papers, and we break them down. But today we are wading into some incredibly murky, turbulent, and frankly disturbing waters.
Yeah.
We're looking at a viral video report, a massive transcript, really, that claims to just blow the lid off one of the most infamous scandals of the century.
It is definitely a heavy one today. We're analyzing the so-called Epstein files,
Mhm.
but specifically through the lens of this very detailed high-traction report.
Right.
It's from the YouTube channel Documents. It connects dots that, well,
Yeah.
let's just say they paint a picture much, much darker than what you see on the nightly news.
And before we take even one step further, we absolutely need to set the ground rules here, because the things we're about to discuss, they're shocking.
They are.
They're graphic, and they implicate some of the most powerful people on the planet.
And I cannot mission for this deep dive is to impartially report on the content of this specific source material. The report we're looking at makes some extremely serious allegations against people like Donald Trump, Bill Gates, even intelligence agencies.
Right. We aren't the jury here. We're not endorsing these viewpoints or trying to verify every single claim in a court of law.
No.
We're here to unpack the narrative presented in this video report, which suggests a massive systemic cover-up. It's really a look at what millions of people are watching and, believing right now.
Precisely. It's about understanding the signal within all the noise. And honestly, the best place to start isn't even with Epstein himself.
No.
It's with a story the source uses to set the mood. A story from way back in 2009 involving a woman named Gabriela Rico Jimenez.
Yeah, this really grabbed me. It's cinematic in the absolute darkest way possible. The source opens with this to frame everything that follows. So can you set the scene for us?
Okay, so it's August 3rd, 2009. We're in Mexico. The report describes this scene outside a hotel. The source calls it the Feasting Hotel, which might be a translation quirk, but the visual is. It's clear, and it's disturbing.
And this woman, Gabriela, a 21-year-old model, is recorded screaming outside this building.
And she's not just making a scene.
No, she's hysterical.
She is completely losing it. And she's not just screaming nonsense. She's yelling that people inside a private party at the hotel were. Well, the quote is, eating children.
It's a horrific image.
Horrific. She's screaming about murders being committed. She's yelling that she doesn't understand what's happening, just crying out for freedom. The source says she was arrested shortly after, and then nothing.
Gone.
Her identity, her whereabouts, it all just fades into the ether.
And the source mentions that at the time, everyone just dismissed her. They said she was on drugs or mentally unstable because, let's be honest.
Eating children.
Yeah, eating children sounds impossible. It sounds like a horror movie, not real life.
But that's the narrative hook the source uses. The argument is, back in 2009, people thought such things were impossible. But now, with the release of these new files, the source is suggesting that the reality of this elite underworld is darker than anyone wanted to believe.
It frames the whole Epstein leak not just as a financial scandal or a trafficking ring,
but as something bordering on the horrific. It suggests Gabriela might have been the canary in the coal mine.
which brings us to the massive data dump the source discusses. And we're talking about a few loose pages here.
No. The source claims the Department of Justice released approximately 3.5 million pages of files. That is just an ocean of information.
And within that ocean, one name apparently dominates the whole conversation.
The big fish.
Donald Trump.
According to this report, Trump's name appears approximately 5,335 times in these documents.
5,000 times. That seems impossible to ignore. But we have to be careful with numbers like that, right? Does appearing mean he's accused of a crime 5,000 times?
That's a crucial distinction. The source notes the volume, but, in legal discovery, a name can appear in flight logs, phone messages, depositions. It's not a criminal accusation every single time.
Okay.
However, the source argues that despite the damage control and the claims that these are unverified, the sheer volume and the specificity of the allegations paint a terrifying picture.
Okay. Let's unpack that specificity, because the report doesn't just say Trump knew Epstein. It gets into these graphic, visceral allegations. What is the most disturbing claim the source brings forward?
It's difficult to even articulate, but we have to look at what the source is claiming. There's a cited document involving a victim who was 13 years old at the time.
13.
And this victim's testimony claims she was repeatedly assaulted by Trump. But it goes further.
This is the Lake Michigan claim, isn't it? I had to read that part of the transcript twice just to believe what I was seeing.
Yes. The source details an allegation that this victim became pregnant. And the claim, again, we are strictly reporting what is in this video transcript, is that the newborn baby was killed on the day it was born,
Oh my God.
and the body was dumped in Lake Michigan.
That is an accusation of the highest possible order. It's monstrous.
It is, and the source emphasizes that this allegedly happened right in front of Trump. The narrative presented is that these aren't just party crimes, they're crimes of extreme violence and total impunity. The source is trying to shatter the image of this just being bad behavior and reframe it as criminal monstrosity.
And there's more, right, regarding flight logs. A conversation about a sheik.
Right. This is another specific detail the source drills into. It points to a documented conversation on a flight where Epstein and Trump were traveling together, and they were allegedly discussing a visit to a foreign country where a sheik had given his daughter to Trump.
Given his daughter.
Yeah.
Like a gift.
That's the phrasing. They were supposedly discussing how beautiful these young women were. And the source notes Epstein's reply to this was that he really liked when sheiks offered their daughters like that.
It paints a picture of them trading human beings like commodities.
And discussing it as casually as you or I might discuss a business deal.
So with allegations, this explosive 5,000 mentions, murder accusations, the obvious question the listener has is, why isn't this the only thing on the news? Why isn't this wall-to-wall coverage?
That's exactly the question the source asks, and the answer they provide is systemic protection. The source explicitly claims the Department of Justice is protecting Trump.
How?
Well, the source mentions that a specific document linking Trump and Epstein was temporarily removed by the DOJ from the release.
After the release.
Yes. So the source argues, if they're removing documents after a release, just imagine what they removed before.
And the report says there are still, what, 3 million pages unreleased?
Correct. The source believes the current release was curated. They argue that the 300,000 or so pages we see now are just the tip of the iceberg, and the vast majority of the damaging material on Trump is locked away in those unreleased 3 million pages.
It's a staggering thought. But Trump isn't the only titan of industry wrapped up in this report. The source pivots hard from politics to the tech world.
Yes, specifically Bill Gates and Elon Musk.
Let's start with Bill Gates. Usually the narrative around Gates and Epstein is about, funding or philanthropy meetings.
A bad judgment call.
A bad judgment call on Gates' part. But this source, it goes somewhere else entirely.
It goes into medical territory. The source claims Bill Gates visited Epstein's island frequently. But the sensational allegation here is that Gates allegedly contracted HIV from interactions with Russian women on the island.
HLV, that is a massive claim.
It is, and the source builds a whole narrative around this. They claim Gates tried to hide this diagnosis from his then-wife Melinda. Not out of love, the source argues, but out of fear.
Fear of what? Divorce.
Fear of divorce, fear of legal exposure, fear of his entire reputation just collapsing.
And the source connects this to their eventual divorce.
Explicitly. The source frames the divorce as a direct result of this secret finally becoming untenable. But here is the detail that really shows the level of manipulation Epstein used. We know he was a blackmailer.
Right.
The source claims Epstein sent emails to Gates, but he didn't use his own name.
He used a pseudonym.
Yes. Boris Nikolic. The source alleges Epstein used this identity to send emails that would implicate Gates creating leverage.
So if Gates ever tried to cut ties, Epstein had this Boris correspondence to hold over his head?
It's a classic honey trap.
It's intelligence agency tactics 101.
Which leads us to Elon Musk.
Right. Musk often presents himself as an outsider to this establishment. What does the report say about him?
It focuses on emails from November 2012. Musk allegedly emailed Epstein asking about the schedule on the island. Specifically, he asked if there would be a Wild West night or day.
Wild West. That
Yeah.
sounds ominous in this context. Wild West usually implies lawlessness.
It does. And the source notes that Epstein replied by asking how many people Musk was bringing. Musk's alleged reply was, me and Tallulah.
That would be Tallulah Riley, his partner at the time.
Right. It connects Musk directly to the social calendar of the island, kind of contradicting the idea that he had no real involvement.
It really shows the reach of this network. We have politics, we have tech, and then we even have fashion and finance. I noticed the outline mentioned a couple of other names that don't usually get the headlines. Melania Trump, for instance.
Yes, this was an interesting specific. The source cites an email from 2002 where Melania Trump was emailing Ghislaine Maxwell.
Epstein's partner.
Right. And she was praising Maxwell for her press coverage and asking to visit Palm Beach.
Which suggests a social familiarity.
Exactly. It wasn't just business. It was a whole social circle. And then there's Howard Letnick,
the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald.
The very same.
Yeah.
The source mentions his wife emailing about anchoring a boat near Epstein's Island in 2012. It just reinforces that this wasn't some dark secret club. It was a hub for the elite.
And speaking of hubs for the elite, we have to talk about the royals. You just can't discuss the Epstein files without Prince Andrew.
No, you can't. And the source obviously brings up the visual evidence, that infamous photo of Prince Andrew with his arm around Virginia Giuffre. But the new angle here is about the location.
Buckingham Palace.
Yes. The source claims Epstein was actually invited to Buckingham Palace by Andrew. And the reason given. Andrew offered it as a place for privacy.
Using the palace for privacy for Jeffrey Epstein, the irony is just tragic.
It really is. The source highlights this conversation where Andrew tells Epstein to come to the palace because there are plenty of private ways to meet there. It suggests the institution itself was used to shield these interactions.
Now, here's where the report took a turn I really didn't expect. It dives into Indian politics.
Yes. This was a surprising section of the source material. It mentions two massive names, Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi.
Let's look at Modi first. The source says his name appears in 136 pages.
That's the claim. But the expert in me has to point out the nuance the source provides here. There's a line in the files about Modi dancing and singing for U.S. benefits.
Dancing and singing. Literally, like a performance.
No. And the source clarifies this to avoid confusion. They interpret this as a metaphor.
Ah.
It's likely diplomatic speak Modi performing or jumping through hoops to please American interests or gain favor. The source explicitly says it's a metaphor, not that he was literally dancing there.
That's a really important distinction. The language in these cables can be so flowery. What about Rahul Gandhi?
The mention there is less flattering in a political sense.
Yeah.
The files allegedly refer to him as a hopeless amateur who is destroying the Congress Party.
Ouch. That sounds like honest political analysis being caught on tape.
Yeah. The source notes that while these names appear, it's mostly observational or indirect. But the source makes a sharp observation. Despite the indirect nature, these mentions are being weaponized in India for political mudslinging.
Of course.
One side uses the dancing line, the other uses the amateur line.
It just shows how global this is. Everyone is looking for dirt on their opponents in these files.
Exactly. But the source pulls us back to the reality. While politicians throw mud, the real story is the victims and the system that allowed this to happen.
And that leads us to the most chilling part of this deep dive, the cover-up. Because the source argues this wasn't just incompetence, it was a strategy.
This is the asset theory. And for me, this is the key to understanding the whole report. The source argues that intelligence agencies, specifically the FBI, had information on Epstein as far back as 1996.
1996, that's decades before he was finally stopped.
Decades. The source claims the agencies chose not to arrest him.
Yeah.
Instead, they used him as an asset. Epstein was gathering dirt on the most powerful people in the world, controlling money and power, and the intelligence agencies allegedly saw that as valuable.
So they let him run his operation, let him abuse women and children so they could have access to the blackmail material.
That is the allegation, that they valued the leverage over the law.
And this brings us to 2008, the non-prosecution agreement. We've all heard about this, but how does the source frame it?
The source focuses on Alexander Costa, the U.S. attorney at the time. He cut a deal with Epstein, a non-prosecution agreement, or NPA.
And what were the terms?
He was incredibly lenient for Epstein, but the key clause, the one that really matters, was that it protected potential co-conspirators.
Wow.
It effectively granted immunity to anyone else involved. The source describes this in visceral terms. It was bargaining with children's lives.
It basically locked the door on justice for the victims to protect the Johns.
Yes, and the source argues this protection racket continues to this day. They point to a pattern of convenient deaths surrounding the case.
The body count. It's not just Epstein, is it?
No. Let's run through the list that the source compiles. First, there's Alfred. He was Epstein's housemate and butler. The source says he stole the infamous Black Book.
He's the one who took it.
He was arrested, turned witness, and then died by suicide in jail in 2015.
Suspicious.
Then Jean-Luc Brunel, a key figure in the supply chain of victims, found dead in 2022.
Another suicide.
Officially, yes. Then there's Bill Richardson, the former governor of New Mexico, who died just recently. And perhaps most tragically, the source mentions an unnamed victim, a key witness who had been fighting for 18 years.
She died too.
Allegedly by suicide early last year. The source asks the listener to just look at the pattern. Witnesses, Accomplices, people who know where the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively, keep dying before they can fully testify.
It's terrifying. It feels like a movie script, but it's real life. And it brings us to the release itself. The source has a major issue with how these files are coming out right now.
This is a crucial point regarding the DOJ. The source accuses them of a selective release.
What does that mean?
They point out a disturbing discrepancy. The names of the criminals, the perpetrators, are largely redacted. We see black bars over the powerful names.
Okay.
But the names and even faces of the victims, in some cases, they're left exposed.
Wait, so they're protecting the criminals but doxing the victims?
That is the claim. The source suggests this is intentional. It's a tactic to intimidate other victims. If you see that coming forward, means your name and trauma will be public while your abuser stays anonymous.
You're less likely to talk.
You're much less likely to talk. It silences current victims and discourages future ones. It also gives the DOJ an excuse to delay future releases, claiming they need more time to redact properly next time.
It's a delay tactic.
It is.
Meanwhile, the clock is ticking and witnesses are dying. So let's take a step back. We've covered Trump, Gates, Musk, the royals, the intelligence agencies. It's overwhelming.
It is meant to be overwhelming. That's how these systems survive. Complexity is a form of camouflage.
So what does this all mean? What is the big takeaway from this report for someone listening today?
I think the source's core message is that we shouldn't get distracted by just one villain. I mean, yes, Epstein was a monster.
Of course.
But the source argues he was a monster created and protected by a system of other monsters.
It's not a bad apple scenario.
No, it's a rotten orchard. The source is saying that the very agencies meant to stop these crimes, the DOJ, the FBI, were complicit because they valued the power that Epstein's blackmail provided. They were bargaining with children's lives to maintain control over the powerful.
And the political figures, whether it's Trump or Gates, are just players in a game that was rigged from the start.
Precisely. And the scary part is the why. Why allow it? Because if you control the people who control the world, you run the world. Epstein was just the mechanism.
That is a chilling thought to end on.
It leaves us with the final provocative question the source poses. We know about the 3.5 million pages. We know about the deaths.
Right.
The question is, with key witnesses dying off one by one and the DOJ seemingly dragging its feet with these redactions, will the full truth about the real villains, the ones who started this game back in 1996, ever actually come out?
Or is this leak just another form of damage control, just releasing enough steam to keep the engine from exploding, but never enough to actually stop the machine?
That is the question.
Heavy stuff today, but crucial to understand the narrative being discussed out there.